Hi, I'm Jenn Welby Gilbert, founder of the Giving Project for Children, and welcome back to Tip Tuesday with the Giving Project for Children. This week, I continue to focus on the question, why did they change this to all this stupid math? Today, we're focusing on subtraction computation strategies. So I'm going to provide you with 4 strategies that I teach my kiddos in my class. And yes, standard algorithm or traditional algorithm is one of them. But first, if you haven't seen my original post on the purpose of this and my feelings on why this is actually beneficial for kiddos, Common Core math, or this way of looking at it, new math, please look at that post from 2 weeks ago. You can also check out last week's with addition strategies, and in the upcoming weeks, I'll do multiplication and division as well. If you have any other questions, feel free to email them to me. I love getting your questions. I have a couple lined up. And also, if you have any questions directly about math or reading, you can email me that as well, and I'll get back to you. So without further ado, here are the 4 subtraction strategies. Number 1 is standard algorithm. Again, I usually try to teach that at the end after I've shown them how to do it. Number 1 is break one number apart. Similar to the addition strategy, except in subtraction, you can only break one of the numbers and you must keep the other whole. Second is number line add on. I show them a number line. We plot the first number and then the second number, and we find the difference between those two numbers by adding up, because adding, as most people feel, is easier than subtracting back. And the third one is counting up. So again, I take one of those numbers and we add on to it to get to that third number. Because again, most people find, and most people would agree, that addition is easier for us than subtraction. So we try to turn as many of these and flip them into addition strategies so that the kids can feel as effective and confident as possible. So here are your strategies. Okay, so I tried to line up our subtraction strategies with the similar or corresponding addition strategies. So in subtraction, we also use number line, we also use break one number apart, and we also use standard algorithm, which again is the traditional way that you and I learned how to do math. By place doesn't really work. You end up with a lot of mistakes if you try to go by place, so I don't teach my kids that one. And at the very end, I'll teach you a 4th strategy called counting up, which I also find kids make a lot of mistakes. So I really try to focus on these 3 strategies: number line, break one number apart, and standard algo. First, number line. So I, as I've said, with addition, like to teach my kids using multiple colors and showing that there are certain steps. So I give my kids click pens with different colors that they can click in that correspond to the steps that we do until they're feeling successful and confident with that. So starting with number line, first thing we do is we leave some space and we draw our number line. And the next thing that we do is, in addition, we put the largest number on the line. We're going to do that here, but we're going to actually put both numbers on the line. So we know that 36 is our smaller number and 78 is our larger number. What is important for the kids to know, and number line is a great place to start, is that in subtraction, what they're trying to find is the difference or the space between these two numbers. That's the most important part. Well, actually, that they get the numbers in the correct order is probably the most important part. But so what you want to do, the first step is putting your numbers on the line and telling them that we're trying to find that space between this. But how do we get there? Okay. The first thing we do is we try to make jumps. And I tell my kids that the first jump that they're going to make is the jump to the next 10. So from 36, the next 10 is 40. And then the next 10, and you could, what I would do is I would actually teach my kids to go to the closest 10 here, 70. And then what's the difference between 36 and 40? Or add on, which is plus 4. Between 40 and 70 is 30. And between 70 and 78 is 8. So I then take these 3 numbers, 30, 4, and 8, and I'm going to add those together. 4 and 8 make 12, and then we've got 42. So 42 should be our answer, and again, I tell all my kids that they should box their answers. Again, by place is not going to work for us, so we're going to skip over that and going to break one number apart. Within break one number apart, we're going to break apart the smaller number here. So we're going to keep the 78 and we're gonna put that down here. And then we're gonna start breaking apart this. So we underline the tens and circle the ones. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna subtract the tens. And again, the point of using these strategies is to teach them things that not only give them efficiency, but things that they can do in their head. 78 minus 30, a lot of these kiddos should be able to do that in their head. Just remind them that the ones place is not changing. So we're gonna end up with 48. And then we keep 48, and we're gonna subtract our ones, which is 6. 48 minus 6 is 42. I would say that for most of my kids, this ends up being the strategy that they're using, or what I call their go-to strategy. Standard algo. You should all feel very familiar with this. Well, I hope. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up our numbers. As I tell my kids, always do the ones column first. It's so important that they learn to line up those numbers here, that they don't misalign the numbers. Again, if they do it in the hundreds and they try to subtract wrong, like 239 minus 36, they'll line things up incorrectly and come out with a very, very skewed answer. So we want to make sure that we line up our numbers. Always put our number there. And then we split the columns. 8 minus 6 is 2. 7 minus 3 is 4. Again, we've ended up with 42 as our final answer. Now, the last strategy that I'm going to show you is called counting up. Counting up can be a tricky strategy, and I find that a lot of kids make a lot of mistakes with this strategy, so I don't really focus on it. So I'm going to give you a brief understanding. So we're going to take the 36. Again, what we're really doing is referring back to the number line. We're trying to find that difference between these two numbers. So you would be taking 36 and trying to add on until you get to 78. So 36 plus 4 equals 40. 40 plus, let's say 10 is 50. We got to keep going. We're not there yet. You know, I know that 50 plus 20 gets me to 70. And then 70 plus 8 equals 78. The problem comes is they now have to find the answer. It's another step. So now what they have to know to do is to take all of these numbers and add them. Okay, well 10 and 20 is 30. And 8 and 4 is 12. So now I'm left with 30 and 12. And now there's another step to add those together to get to 42. Again, I find that very few kids use this strategy. I discourage my kids from using this strategy because there's so many places to make a mistake. I think that this is where a lot of parents see new math in, and they get very frustrated because, again, they're like, this doesn't make any sense. This is silly. It's time consuming. It's not efficient. And there's a lot of mistakes. Basically, what you need to think about is that this is arguably the same thing as number line, except number line is the visual. And what we know about kids is that providing that visual makes math so much easier. So again, they're doing the same thing, 36 to 40, 40 to 70, 70 to 78. But there's that visual of moving across the number line, which is something that this group of kids should be very comfortable with because they've been doing it since they were in pre-K. My pre-K kiddo was doing numbers on the number line during his Zoom today. So this should be a very familiar strategy of using number line. It just may not be the most comfortable one for you. Last thing, when choosing a strategy, I tell my kids to find something that's efficient for them and something that's what makes their go-to strategy. And efficiency comes with time, being correct, and confidence. So you want them to find something that they're confident using, they feel comfortable using, that they get the answer correct most of the time, and that they're efficient with. It's not a super time-consuming strategy. And that's one of the reasons why I think counting up is not a great strategy. It is incredibly, incredibly time-consuming. So thank you so much. Hope these helped you. Remember to continue to check in with me, send me questions. I've been really happy helping with so many people with their math homework this week, and I'm happy to continue to do so. Thanks so much. Stay safe, stay sane, and thanks for sharing this time with me.